elderly person who was dependent on an oxygen machine died shortly after they shut the power off because he had no oxygen.
That's not funny at all.
No, it's serious. And unfortunately,
serious.
I mean, I think what's happening is they got the fire going and they're trying to cut part of the grid down where they don't lose the whole grid. That's what they're doing.
Yeah, I think they're running into a resource problem. I personally would like them to be more straightforward about why they're shutting the power down. I think a lot of these companies tend to come up with excuses that, but what do I know? I'm just kind of speculating about that. I don't really know for sure. But I it's like when you get the news, how dependable can you rely on the news to give you the truth about some of these things?
You can't. But another thing, if they sit there and say, are we going to cut the power down? If you're dependent on anything that's life-saving that runs on electricity, call this number for we can help you. Okay? And then they can figure something out. I think that would have prevented that guy's death today because of this. Or last night, I should say.
I'm sure he probably was not. So you think this person was probably in a home situation? He was in his home and he had this equipment or something to keep him alive.
Right. And then when the power shut off, his oxygen machine quit, running.
Yeah.
So, I mean...
I don't think they think about these things. I really, truly don't think they think the ramifications of serious situations, that they just arbitrarily do this stuff without any forethought about it. And I don't think that's right.
Well, I think they should maybe tell the people up front, again, if you are dependent on anything that runs on electricity, it's saving your life or a life-saving device, please call this number or make arrangements. You have this many hours to do it. But then again, not everybody listens to the news, and if they don't listen to the news or watch TV on a regular basis, they might not hear about it. Let's face it.
Otherwise, they would have prepared for it better, maybe.
Yeah. It's sad. I mean, between the scuba diver that died and this guy died, and who knows how many more deaths are going to happen from them shutting the power on and off. I don't know. It's eerie out there. How, I hate to say it, things aren't thought out right, or they don't really care.
I hope it's not the latter, though. Them not caring.
Yeah. Hey, James, are you still there? You've been quiet for the last half an hour.
Hey, I'm here. I don't want to step on nobody's toes, but these are all very good points. I don't think they really think things out too much, or maybe they do think things out, and it's part of the population control. I mean, it's a perverted thought, but I mean, you know how they think sometimes.
Yeah, about one or two people is nothing for population control. I don't know. I can see their point, because if they are having fires and it's affecting their power lines and they have to shut certain areas off and keep from shutting down the whole grid, I can see that. But they did announce on the news yesterday and on the radio that they were going to be shutting power down in certain areas at a certain time. But maybe they didn't tell the people what areas were going to be shut down. I don't know.
I think there's a lot of people that... Oh, go ahead, James. I'm sorry. I walked on you.
No, that's all right. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that that sometimes I think we have to take personal responsibility, and a lot of people don't. Staying up on the news and kind of knowing what your environment, what's going on in your world, basically, is because you need to know. I mean, I try to sift through things personally to see what's going to affect me up here in the Northwest. And sometimes it's a little hard to do because you really don't know if you should rely on this information or that, but you've got to have multiple sources, I think, to be able to sift through and determine what the truth might be about any particular situation. And I think everyone needs, and part of it, I'm jumping around here a little bit, but I think people need to think about things a little bit more. They need to be a little bit more concerned about what's going on around them so they don't get caught in a situation that's going to be detrimental to their health. That's all I'm saying.
I don't know. Can I tell you something? I'm going to get a lot of messages on this, but I don't understand what is going on with our society in the last 10 years. Mainly is because is people not caring about other people anymore like they used to. It seems like a lot of things is going on politically and locally with different areas across and regions across the country. It's a lot of strange things going on. I mean, something I would never think that American people would stand for. And it's happening on a daily basis, and it's really getting freaky out there.
You know who's going to notice it more is the ones like have lived the longest, that have remembered what times were like back 50 years ago. Those of us that are like over their 50s and even 40s, 50s, early 60s, 70s, we remember a different time, and we remember how society used to work. And I'll tell you what, society was a lot better at one time than it is now. I'm flat out going to say that.
I think you're right.
Go ahead, Gary. I'm sorry.
I just said I think you're absolutely right. Now, changing the subject a little bit, and I'm going to touch about it at the last half an hour of the show tonight. You know how I mentioned Ronald Reagan, Star Wars, and all that stuff? Well, I was doing some digging this weekend and found out there was a couple meetings with, the CIA with Reagan when he first became president of the United States, where they sat down and explained to Ronald Reagan that, yes, we're being visited by, aliens, and that such and such aliens are, haven't been a threat to us. But there was one threat, the reptilian, I can't pronounce it,
reptilian?
Yes, is a threat to mankind, and that they are actually cannibal. Now, this document is circulating on the internet. Now, I don't know if it's real or not, but I just go back to a conversation because one of my dad's closest friends was a famous movie actor, and his best friend was Ronald Reagan. So I got to talk. When I was young, I got to talk to Ronald Reagan a few times. And I asked him about Star Wars. And he came back, and I asked him, I said, is that going to protect us against the Soviet Union? And he came back and he said this to me. Well, it's going to protect us against them out there. And I didn't think anything of it because I was young and naive. Now, thinking back all those years, he wasn't talking, and he didn't point no direction towards the Soviet Union or any other country. It was them out there. Now, you can take that any way you want, but I think this thing with aliens and abductions has been going on way longer than we ever thought.
Do you remember that speech that Ronald Reagan gave in front of that assembly? That's somewhat famous now. He talked about, if there was a threat out there, would we all come together? Remember that one?
Oh, yeah, I do.
Yeah, I can't remember it word for word, but it was, I think this is what he was really referring to when they were doing the Star Wars defense system. And I think maybe it was for that purpose.
I think so. And I don't know if any of it was implemented or not. There's rumors that out there that part of it was. I don't know. But I can tell you that this thing about abductions, cattle mutilation, people don't realize, they think that only happened like 10, 15, 20 years ago. Well, I did also some digging up. There was cases of cattle mutilation worldwide. And there's been cases before, even the 70s, of cattle mutilation going on. There was well over 5,000 reports worldwide, even at that time frame. So does that tell you something is going on? Why would they keep abducting animals and continue to do it and go in cycles? It's something that they're looking for and want or need off of cattle. And a lot of these mutilations took place in Argentina, believe it or not. Same with human mutilations took place, a lot of them in Argentina, Brazil, South America, the Amazon and stuff like that. And who knows, maybe in our country.
If people took these things seriously and applied the same investigative techniques to solving or getting clues or getting answers to why these things take place, then we'd be a lot further ahead on why this is happening or who's doing it. But unfortunately, what happens is when these things happen, they get downplayed in the media. They get downplayed by serious investigators. Oh, that was probably done by a wild animal. And they totally ignore the specific circumstances of how the mutilations take place, like the specific laser precision cutting of different parts of the animal.
Oh, yeah.
That could only be accomplished. It can't be accomplished by an animal. There's no teeth marks. It's very precision. It had to be done by some kind of technology. And nobody wants to really address that and take it seriously.
They don't. And some of these, we're talking in the 30s, 40s, 50s, it was going on. The same thing. They were all reported as laser. Well, then they didn't know what laser was. But it was done better than any scalpel, could ever have been done. So, I mean, it was noted that this was going on for a long period of time. I also listened to a show that Linda Morton Howell was on and talking about all these mutilations. It is scary, the amount of them. So, I mean, something is going on where they're looking for something or need it, more likely, because this cattle mutilation has just been going on too long. And too many animals over a long period of time, again, with humans. So I don't know. It hasn't seemed to stop. It still keeps going on worldwide.
And I still think it has everything to do with DNA research of some sort.
Or they need something off of those animals for some reason. That's the scary part, along with the humans.
Yep. And there's no way to know for sure unless people start working together to try to get the answers and try to piece together the puzzle. Take the pieces. I don't know if
that's going to happen. I mean, back here, remember back about 7 months ago? Oh, disclosure is going to come out. It's this great news that's going to come out on UFOs and abductions, and all this is going to come out. All this paperwork and all this stuff in this book is going to come out and tell you everything that we need to know. Well, it never happened, did it?
No. Yeah, well, they keep pushing stuff like that. I mean, it's not the first time that we're going to have a great disclosure thing going on, and all of a sudden it just fizzles out. But sometimes I question, what do we mean by disclosure? It's like, I mean...
Well, it was a rumor going around with some major people in ufology that it was going to be these documents and naming certain people. All this was going to hit the news, and it was going to come out and prove that we've been visited by aliens, that UFOs exist. Well, that never really happened. It didn't make any huge waves like these people thought it was going to do. What made the big waves was when the Navy came out and said, hey, there's UFOs.
I think they already know that the powers that be already know that they exist, and I think they're going to control the narrative with the media, and they're going to make the call and decision. It's really about a decision of when they're going to do it, not so much coming up with new proof, because we got more than enough proof, I think, behind the witnesses that have come forward about different races of aliens and different people of the Air Force. Different people from military retired people that had fairly high positions that reported on what took place and about the missiles that were deactivated by UFOs. I mean, I remember all that from back about 2001 or somewhere around there when they were doing those disclosure hearings. Well, that was enough for me. But, when it comes to the government coming forward and saying, this is true, that's what people seem to be waiting for.
Uh-huh.
No, yeah.
Yeah. Well, hey, Sam, if you want to call back like the last half an hour of the show, I'm going to get ready to go on break.